Part 161. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1606. When high-level magicians start experiments, it is common for them to retreat for 3 to 5 days and not see anyone for 10 or 8 days. If you want to meditate in seclusion, bring enough food and water, and lock yourself up. It wouldn't be strange to disappear for a year or two. Usually, disciples are required to go to the place where he lives to pick him up, or the council sends a high-level mage to patrol and try to find out whether the person is alive or dead. But Archmage Philby is not such a person. She is the leader of the entire group. There are 20 mages in the evocation department. 15 more mages were added later, for a total of 35 mages, all under her control. Arrange research projects, assess progress, answer questions, allocate resources, and have work every day. She will host the daily meeting of this group, and she will attend the weekly meeting of the entire Mage Tower. Being so busy, even if Archmage Philby wants to retreat for several days, she must first arrange the plan, designate the replacement, and then inform other groups before she can retreat with peace of mind. It has never happened before that a person suddenly disappeared like this, for 7 days in a row. If he didn't show up for 1 day, the team would know about it. If he didn't show up for 2 days, he would report to Greed. If you don't show up for 7 days, the entire Mage Tower will know. There are only a few half-step legends in total. One of them is suddenly missing. How eye-catching it is. Did he run away on his own and got lost while exploring the surrounding area? Or when you were wandering around, you walked into some secret place and couldn't get out? It is not strange for a half-step legend to travel 1 or 2,000 miles in a day. With the Mage Tower as the center and 3 to 5,000 miles around, are there any strange and dangerous places? Or, while walking around, which legendary dragon did you encounter and was killed or captured? It probably wouldn't be a big deal if they were killed. They were distinguished guests and the dragon clan knew that. They had to be on guard against being captured. Mage Nordmark, please say something. Mage Nordmark, Archmage Philby is not here, you have to find a way. Mage Nordmark, Archmage Philby is also your senior sister, you can't just leave her alone. Greed had a headache from all the noise. 2 days a day, even the 7th day, he did not panic. I asked Time Dragon Sains for advice before, and he peered into the river of time and told him that senior sister Philby had no disasters in 3 months. Now, 3 months have not come yet, not even 2 months. Missing. The problem of missing should not be big. He will come back fine and everything will be fine. But with so many people asking, he had to take it seriously. First, communicate with the center of the Mage Tower and ask the Tower Spirit to activate the magic circle and scan the surrounding area. The Mage Tower built in the wilderness is different from the Mage Tower built in Nevis. It must have this magician. The Mage Towers in the colony all have early warning functions. If an enemy comes, the police can be alerted from 10 miles away. The Mage Tower on Dragon Island has the best scanning array. It's not as good as the Star Dome of Babel Tower, but it's already the best among ordinary Mage Towers. When it is not turned on, it is not a problem to scan 10 miles. It can absorb the magic crystal mine under the Mage Tower and turn it on at full power to scan thousands of miles. It can also last for half an hour. At this moment, Gretel, Sarah, several team leaders, and 4 or 5 team leaders from the plasticity department, crowded together and watched in front of the magic circle. With the magic circle as the center, a beam of light is projected, illuminating the ceiling. Then, one ring after another, one ring after another, one ring after another expands outwards. Every time a ring expands, there is a bright or dark light. Tailing, call up the surrounding map. Okay, it's been transferred out. Gretel gave an order, and another map was projected on the ceiling. High and low, mountains, rivers, dragon nests, gathering places of various intelligent races, and lairs of powerful monsters are all clearly marked. With this map, most of the light spots explored by the magic circle have explanations. This is Vasca's dragon's lair. The master should not be here. This direction is Andre and Cynthia's dragon lair. This direction. Scanning until thousands of miles away, everything that should be there is there, and there are no extra spots of light that are worthy of a half-step legendary archmage. Everyone looked at each other and stared at Gretel. Where have people gone? You're not going to the dragon tomb, are you? A small voice came from the crowd. Gretel turned his head and glanced, but didn't see who was asking. He could only hear the direction of Black Crow Swamp. Gretel couldn't help but glared fiercely. It's not you. It's not you. The research directions of Thunderhorn and Black Crow Swamp are different. If the senior sister disappears, it is probably related to the observer effect, so she will not go to the dragon tomb. Don't even think about going to the dragon tomb again under the pretext of looking for someone. After being glared at by him, the sound in the Black Crow Swamp was instantly silenced. Gretel turned around, took a deep breath, and looked around. In this case, I will go find the surrounding dragon clan and ask. Senior sister is a high-level mage. Maybe she has gone to some place we don't know about. Greet did not ask the liaison officer stationed in the mage tower. That person was just an adult dragon with limited power and limited connections. Lead the way as usual and rush to time dragon Sains. I'm here to trouble you again. Senior sister Philby has been missing for 7 days. Oh? Missing? The time dragon still maintained his posture lying on the ground, and a ray of light spread out in front of him. It was the dragon flying technique cloak that he paid tribute to. Hearing this, he slowly turned his head and looked at him confusedly. It shouldn't be. What? Greet was instantly furious. Brother, you said before that my senior sister will be safe from any disaster within 3 months. I saw that she has been in the mage tower, for 3 months. What did you do? Okay, no need to tell me, I won't understand even if you tell me. Sains flicked his tail lazily. Let me see. Well, the waves of time on her body are very strong now. So. It depends on whether she can struggle out. She will come out when she comes out. If she can't come out, she won't come out. This is a big turning point. Ah, you brought it again, and you triggered time again. The river turned a corner on her. Gretel was stunned. Brother, if there is such a thing, you should say it earlier. If I had told you earlier, I would not have been so arrogant and directly showed the experiment to my senior sister. I must be more cautious than cautious. Maybe, I'll ask the teacher for advice first. The teacher is a legendary mage, and his research on electricity, electromagnetism, and particles is more advanced. If there are any problems, he should be able to withstand it. There's no point crying now. Time Dragon Sains refused to make any more predictions. In his words, we can't be sure now. We can only wait until the situation is settled. Gretel sighed and had no choice but to rush back to the mage tower and send a message to the Lord of Thunder. Teacher, help. Come to Dragon Island. I showed my senior sister an experiment and she lost it. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1607. The Lord of Thunder has been living in the elf secret realm for half a month. He took his wife and leisurely landed in the southern part of the New World. First, I walked around the Kingdom of the Sun and went to the Mage Tower to receive some information. Nothing happened, or in other words, nothing happened that required Legend's special attention. Then, he chatted with the Sun God Virakaka and observed the Sun God's fighting methods and nuclear explosion attacks. It has to be said that battles that produce miracles with great force are sometimes very powerful. The way the Sun God escapes into the void, as well as the way he responds to believers and uses the power of faith to fight, is also worth learning from. Then, take off from the kingdom of the sun, glide down with the wind, and arrive at the secret realm of elves. Unfortunately, the eldest prince has already retreated to understand nature and is preparing to attack the legend. Probably, maybe, the results will be available in about a month. The elf elder who received them said this. The princess immediately turned to her husband, her face full of hope. How about we stay here a little longer? Okay, the Lord of Thunder agreed without thinking. He held the elf princess's hand, his eyes gentle. You can stay here as long as you want. It doesn't matter for a year or two. We are not in a hurry. When you and your brother are done talking and you are tired of living there, we will continue to go south or north. We can go anywhere. This is what he thinks and does. I walk with my wife every day, chat, look at flowers, trees, and grass, and calmly appreciate nature. Mages of the evocation system are not close to nature, nor are they good at understanding nature. But it doesn't matter, walking with my wife will always be possible. At most, one of us can meditate in front of the big tree, and the other can find a random topic and calculate in his mind to pass the time. The well of eternity that has been built is not allowed to be seen, but it doesn't matter. The Lord of Thunder has already seen the one on Eternal Gathering Island. It doesn't matter whether he sees this one or not. Take a look at the houses, various facilities, magic circles, and mysterious locks in the elven secret realm. In 10 days and a half, you can just go around in a rough circle. Before you can feel the taste, the reminder comes. Teacher, help me, come to Dragon Island. I showed my senior sister an experiment, and then she lost it. Gretel's voice was so close to tears. The matter is too big for him to handle. It was stable before because Time Dragon Sane said that senior sister will be fine in the next 3 months, but now Time Dragon's statement has changed. The Thunder Lord's heart sank. This little disciple could not be said to be well behaved and smart. He was often so angry that he had a headache. However, when it comes to research, he has never been worried about it, and he can't worry about it. But now, after watching an experiment, the person was lost? Did the little guy pull out something extraordinary again? What experiment is it? No, it's hard to tell, I can't tell clearly in the communication. Gretel hesitated. Not only could he not explain it clearly, he was also worried that after briefly explaining it, the Lord of Thunder would also disappear. Oh my God, if a legendary third-level magician disappeared, it would really shock the whole world. The Lord of Thunder let out a long sigh and rubbed his brows. The elf princess listened to the whole scene, frowned slightly, and tugged on his sleeve. Since the matter is urgent, let's go to Dragon Island as soon as possible. Whether it's meeting my brother or getting advanced insights, these can be postponed. It's more important to find the person back first. Is it easy to train a disciple to level 19? Is it easy to cultivate to a half-step legend? It seems that if we go further, Thunderhorn will have one more legend. At this time, he suddenly disappears and no one is alive or dead. How is this possible? Where are you? I'll be here right away. The Lord of Thunder nodded to his wife to express his gratitude and continued to ask in the communication. The person on the other side was silent for a moment, rustling, and seemed to be turning over something. Well, I'm in the territory of Cyrilla's parents, the silver dragons Andre and Cynthia, so, teacher, you go to Dragon Island first, and I'll tell Sky Dragon City to send someone to pick you up and guide you. This guy is really promising. Summoning the Sky Dragon City is the same as summoning a disciple of his own mage tower. The Lord of Thunder is angry and funny. But the matter was urgent and he was not allowed to ask any more questions. He thought for a moment and nodded heavily. That's good. I'll rush over as soon as possible. Don't worry, take your time to find someone. If you panic, the entire mage tower will panic. Okay, teacher. Gretel promised, but he didn't have much confidence in his heart. I don't know where to look. There are some strong energy traces within 1,000 miles nearby, but following these traces, I can't find the senior sister at all. Senior sister won't turn into an electronic cloud form, right? She won't become Schrödinger's senior sister, right? You won't escape into the cracks of the world and never come out again, right? If this situation really happens, he has no choice but to rely on his teacher. I'm on my way first. You can stay in the secret realm for a little longer, or stay with your brother over there. The Lord of Thunder shook his wife's hand vigorously. When I finish my work here, I will come to pick you up, or you can ask an elder to send you here. Don't run around. Although the elf ship is legendary, but you have not reached the legendary level yourself, there are still people on the sea and in the new world. Risk. The elf princess pursed her lips hard, with a look of reluctance on her face, but nodded. The Lord of Thunder stretched out his arms to hug her, took a step back, and flashed. When he reappeared, he was already hundreds of meters away, followed by a flash of lightning, 10 miles away. With such electric light flashing, he was outside the mysterious lock of the elven secret realm in a moment. After leaving the mystery lock, long-distance teleportation can be used. Using the high-level mage tower as the natural positioning coordinates, you can reach the kingdom of the sun in one flash, then reach the Eagle country in 3 flashes, and reach the east coast of the northern part of the New World in 3 flashes. If he dodges again, he can't dodge anymore. He hasn't been to the mage tower on Dragon Island yet, and he doesn't know the coordinates. Fortunately, the speed of lightning transmission was unparalleled in the world. Thunder rolled from the sky, and a string of lightning flashed from south to north, pointing directly at Dragon Island. After walking through the New World, I came to the edge of Dragon Island and let go of my aura as a legendary mage. Sure enough, in less than half a day, a little golden light in the distance grew from small to large, and my friend, the golden dragon Diamond, flew from afar. You came so quickly. If Sky Dragon City hadn't been paying attention, I thought it would have to take another half a month. Can you hurry up? If you don't hurry up, the 2 little guys will get into trouble. The matter was urgent, and the golden dragon Diamond did not even fly. Instead, he directly deployed his teleportation technique to lead the way ahead. In one day, we traveled across Dragon Island and headed towards Gretel's mage tower. Right here. Ahead is Andre's dragon's nest. It's not far from the dragon's nest dash. Who said Philby can't be found? Isn't this right here? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1608. As the Lord of Thunder flew, he had already deployed his mental force field. Philby disappeared after seeing Gretel's experiment. Moreover, he disappeared some time after watching the experiment and after practicing on his own for more than half a month. This probably didn't mean that he encountered an enemy or ran to a place he shouldn't have run to and was in danger. The Lord of Thunder knows well that he, a female disciple, is still focused when doing things, and even more focused when doing research. When she first started, she didn't leave the Tower of Babel for a whole year. How could the magicians who were with her go shopping, have a meal, and occasionally watch an opera or something like that? How could she? No. If it weren't for the fact that there was no place to wash and use the toilet in the laboratory, and she was not allowed to sleep in the laboratory, she would have dared to make the floor in the laboratory for a year. In this case, Philby's disappearance was probably caused by a mistake while doing research. She majored in electrical magic. As soon as Lord of Thunder started, she went to find places with abundant thunder and lightning. The silver dragon's territory is high, open and clean. There are often white clouds gathering and dispersing around the dragon's nest. When there are clouds, lightning will roll in the clouds. Near the dragon's nest, there will be lightning and thunder from time to time. Traces of thunder and lightning are everywhere. However, in the eyes of the Lord of Thunder, the difference between these natural thunder and lightning and the thunder and lightning summoned by the magician can be seen at a glance. He flew in a 20-mile circle with the dragon's nest as the center, and quickly locked the place. A lonely peak 10 miles west of Dragon's Nest. It stands steeply and upright, with its tip pointing directly to the sky. In terms of height, it is much higher than the Dragon's Nest. However, the top is too narrow and thin, which cannot allow several dragons to lie down comfortably and dry their scales. Because of its height, it is often struck by lightning, and there are many traces of lightning strikes on the top of the mountain. The Lord of Thunder flew nearby and saw dense thunder and lightning energy at first glance, and at the second glance. The space here is wrong. A few years ago, he might not have been able to tell. This time I visited the sun god Virakaka. There was a difference between the sun god and some of the indigenous gods he had killed. The biggest difference was that he could switch between reality and reality. Arouse the power of faith, arouse divine power, move from the imaginary to the real, and from the real to the imaginary. Entering the physical state can have an impact on the outside world, and can also induce divine power to kill foreign enemies, but it can also be killed by foreign enemies. When you enter the incorporeal state, you can escape into a strange space. Although it can absorb the power of faith as usual and can bless priests and believers, it cannot directly take action. The advantage is that it will not be attacked by foreign enemies. Unless there is external force on the body. Virakaka told him that when he fought with those people who used white light a few years ago, he carried their power with him and could not get rid of it. It was a beacon that would make them feel their status. Will also be tracked and called. The Lord of Thunder had a careful conversation with the sun god Virakaka, and exchanged his knowledge about lightning, rays, and particles for knowledge about virtual real transformation and space. I can't do it yet, but I can already see it. While patrolling around, I suddenly saw similar spatial fluctuations at the top of the lonely peak. Isn't Phil by here? Practice a new spell and accidentally make a mistake and get stuck. Can you get in, but can't get out? The Lord of Thunder stopped and stared at the space carefully. Seeing that he was not moving, Golden Dragon Diamond also followed his gaze and looked over. What's going on here? Golden dragons are good at flames and can spit out some poisonous gas. They are also naturally good at summoning spells and so on, but they have no natural affinity with lightning. He stared for a long time, unable to see what the Lord of Thunder was looking at, so he had to stand on tiptoes, stomp, 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 stomp. Then, he took a breath of air, jumped to the side with force on his toes, and his blonde hair stood up straight. Don't open the lightning field just because you disagree. At least say hello. All my scales stood up. The Lord of Thunder no longer has the energy to deal with this friend. His expression remained unchanged on the surface, but in fact, the small world had completely opened up, and invisible and qualityless magnetism was swirling around him. Round and round, round and round, pushing out. The remaining thunder and lightning on the entire mountain peak are like docile children and well-trained warriors, integrated into his magnetic field. The Lord of Thunder walked forward step by step, and the magnetic field expanded in circles, covering the entire peak, and then expanded outwards, doubling and tripling. Finally, the whole space suddenly became silent, then lit up with dazzling flowers. Diamond closed his eyes quickly and almost shed tears. The magnetic field turned into an electric field, and abundant lightning filled the entire space. This lightning didn't even look like the kind that struck across the sky during thunderstorms, with one branch, two branches, or one branch with three branches. It's not like the ball lightning rolling all over the ground. It looks like something is exploding, but in fact it's just a small one. This lightning was quiet, even, and even seemed gentle. Once it lit up, it filled the entire space. Diamond retreated a few hundred meters, revealed his dragon body, and then said "Ha" in surprise. "What are you doing?" The Lord of Thunder froze the entire space. This is also the secret he got from communicating with the sun god Virakaka. The sun god fled into the void, unable to be reached by external forces. However, if powerful energy is used to freeze the entire space, at least it will prevent him from escaping or attacking unexpectedly. Then, after fixing this space, you can tear it apart. Just like what the golden dragon Diamond saw. The Lord of Thunder stretched out his hands, grabbed a piece of lightning in the void, and spread it apart. Following his movements, the bright lightning in front of him smoothly retreated to both sides. The further they retreated, the further they retreated. Gradually, the hands left him and still opened outwards, like a curtain of lightning opening in front of the Lord of Thunder. The Lord of Thunder stared intently at the center of the curtain. It was ethereal and faint, not like it existed or not, like it was dark, but also like it was illuminated by lightning. After staring for a long time, he suddenly took a step forward, 1 foot outside the curtain and 1 foot inside the curtain. With his body and arms, he grabbed something from inside and dragged it outside the curtain. Diamond, the golden dragon, stretched his neck in surprise. What the Lord of Thunder held in his hand seemed to be a ball of air and a ball of lightning. The lightning gradually converged in his hand, gradually converged, and gradually, a rough human shape appeared. "Philby. What's wrong with you?" Archmage Philby's entire face was white as snow, and her eyes were straight, as if she was out of breath. He was grabbed by the arm and stood still for a while, his eyes finally focused. "Teacher. When did you come to Dragon Island?" The Lord of Thunder had a sullen face and said nothing. In the distance, in the direction of the Mage Tower, several black spots were flying over quickly. As soon as Gretel rushed over, he shouted, "Teacher, teacher is here. Hey, teacher, where did you find senior sister?" "The last 3 days. The last 3 days. Everyone, collect your monthly tickets and give them to the cats. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right?" Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1609. Greet really came all the way. Really are. The Lord of Thunder and Golden Dragon Diamond rushed over, and the scanning array of the Mage Tower alerted the police as early as 100 miles away. The kind that screams hoarse. If it weren't for the sound-generating device of the Mage Tower and the principle of the microphone, it would have been howling. 2 legends. One of them is a high-level legend. Came from the north, bypassed the dragon's nest, and moved forward very fast. One is a dragon, the other one, the energy nature of the spell is obviously biased towards thunder and lightning. The teacher is here? The teacher must be here. Greet wished he could fly straight over. That is to say, his mobility was not strong enough. First, he was grabbed by Cyrilla, and then Idion rushed over. The 2 people, one on the left and one on the right, protected Gretel and headed in the direction of the legend. The 3 of them all carry directional teleportation scrolls. If something goes wrong, with a legend protecting them, they can at least escape back to the Mage Tower. From a distance, I saw the entire space light up, with electricity overflowing. Then, the current slowly spread outwards, and the magician stepped forward and pulled something out of the current. "Teacher, teacher, you're here," Greet braked urgently to avoid hitting the ball of lightning. Then he saw the ball of things being dragged out, gradually materializing, condensing, and turning into a senior sister. "Hey, teacher, where did you find senior sister?" The Lord of Thunder glared at him fiercely. "You ask me, I still want to ask you. What experiment did you show Philby that made her suffer like this?" Staring, he also knew that it was not the little guy's fault that he asked for help this time. The scene in front of me is obviously not something that a child can deal with. Not to mention a child, even he was embarrassed before talking to the sun god Virakaka. Maybe Philby can be rescued, but it's definitely not that easy. It may take some time to study and then try in many ways. If it really comes to that, where is the dignity of the teacher? Little thing, give me as much trouble as you can. He snorted, and a bolt of lightning floated around him, condensed into an arrow shape, and pointed toward the ground. Gretel closed his lips and stood obediently where he pointed. Idion and Sarara stood on one side, honestly and with their hands down. 3 people with 6 eyes looked at each other eagerly. How is the situation? Senior sister was found by the teacher, she should be fine, right? After being missing for such a long time, are there any injuries on your body? Or a little weak? Or, something is not quite right? This is something you have to ask yourself. However, Archmage Philby's face was pale, his eyes were straight, and he looked like he was in a state of confusion, and it was clear that he had not recovered yet. The Lord of Thunder let go of the hand holding her shoulder, moved it again, and held her wrist instead. The spiritual power that fixed the space was slowly withdrawn, the thunder and lightning in the void disappeared, the magnetic force receded, and finally, like soft silk or a spider web, it covered the disciple's body. For a long time, Archmage Philby shivered. He stepped firmly on the ground, swayed a few more times, and finally stood firm. His eyes focused little by little, fixed on the Lord of Thunder. His pupils dilated, then narrowed, then dilated, then narrowed again. He opened his eyes wide, stared at the teacher who suddenly appeared, and murmured. "Teacher! Have you come to your senses again?" The Lord of Thunder breathed a sigh of relief. There was a little joy in my heart, but my face remained unchanged, and even became slightly sullen again. "What happened to you? Teacher?" Archmage Philby swayed, dripping with cold sweat, and collapsed. Gretel grabbed a hold of him and cast a life detection spell on it. With a crackling sound, the light screen shook into a shadow, and the whole thing was annihilated. Greet sighed, held her senior sister's wrist, and looked up and down patiently. Most of his life detection spells rely on current, bioelectricity, and electromagnetic conversion for detection and visualization. Senior sister Philby herself is a strong person in the direction of lightning, and the teacher is standing next to her. There was such a large burst of lightning just now. The electric field in the air is probably extremely disordered, and the magic detection interference is too great to detect anything. Forget it, let's just do it manually, since he didn't lose any of his skills anyway. Well, his face was pale, his forehead and hands were covered in cold sweat, and the palms he held were trembling slightly. My skin is clammy and my heartbeat has reached 120. Hypoglycemia. Or low blood pressure. Or blood potassium. Or have other issues. Goo. Okay, obvious state of hunger. Prioritize hypoglycemia. Without thinking, Greet dug out a packet of glucose powder, poured water in, and stirred. One hand was given to the senior sister, and the other hand was quickly waved to the Lord of Thunder. "Senior sister, drink it first. Once you've recovered, let's talk about other things." The hot liquid was brought to her lips. Archmage Philby closed her eyes slightly and drank it in big gulps. Ning calmed down for a while, raised his head and opened his eyes. "I'm fine. Teacher, I really didn't expect to disturb you. Stop talking nonsense. What's going on?" Something went wrong while studying magic. Archmage Philby herself didn't know how she ended up in this situation. She studied the lightning attack spell very smoothly, and when she jumped following the lightning transfer, it was good at first, but the two could never be integrated together. When not jumping, he can only jump into one of the lightning bolts, but he cannot blend into the lightning at all. After trying again and again, I suddenly had an idea and really merged into that special lightning that appeared in two places at the same time. Then she knew nothing. Don't even know what I am. During the lightning jump, the magician will indeed have the feeling of turning into lightning, but this time it is not a feeling, but it seems that he has actually turned into lightning. It's not a line of lightning, but a ball of lightning. No, it's a ball of electrons. The whole thing spreads out. She frowned and gestured, trying hard to describe her feelings. It's just like the electrons I observed in the experiment, a very strange state, and it's like when you advance, your body begins to become elemental, and your whole person transforms into the lightning element. The Lord of Thunder nodded slightly. In the process of entering a legend, this is the most dangerous step. If you succeed, you will succeed. If you don't succeed, you will lose control of the whole thing, or you may merge into the world. However, Philby's situation is different from theirs. Then how come you maintain this state and can't come back? I don't know either. In this state, I can't feel or think. I can hardly even feel myself, if it weren't for the teacher. Fix the space and tear the space apart. When the teacher's power enveloped her, her whole body transformed from that strange state back to her normal state. If the teacher doesn't find me, I'm afraid I'm really going to die this time. Asking for a monthly ticket. Please vote for me at the end of the month. There are already 3,890 votes. Can we get 5,000 votes this month? If you get 5,000 votes, you will get 8 more votes. 8. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1610. The Lord of Thunder let out a long sigh. Another sigh, another sigh. Of the two disciples, Philby looked confused, and she also looked worried about the aftermath of the disaster. Gretel was trembling and almost shrank behind his little girlfriend. Oh, I made a mistake, she is not my girlfriend, she is already my fiancée. The Lord of Thunder swallowed his fourth sigh and put on a smile that could barely be considered kind. Turning his hand over, a small, beautifully decorated shell box appeared in his hand. Sarala, you are engaged. The teacher is outside and is not here. This is a little gift prepared by your master's wife. Take it and play with it. As he spoke, he gave a gentle push, and the small box floated up and flew towards Sarala silently. Sarala grabbed it, and before opening it, she could already feel the abundant magical power inside, and smiled brightly. Hey! Thank you both. She happily held the box in her hands, took a step back, and stood behind Gretel. Weigh it again and again, trying to control myself and not open the box and look at the gift on the spot. This is so rude. The congratulatory gifts from the legendary mage and the elf princess must be good things. Put it up and watch it slowly with Gretel when you get back to the mage tower. Things can't escape, right? If the Lord of Thunder has a good impression of her, he will take more care of Gretel, right? When this gift was handed out, the atmosphere at the scene suddenly relaxed a little. The Lord of Thunder nodded to the silver dragon girl, and then turned his attention to Gretel. This guy must know something. No, he may not know the details, but he must know that the experiment he showed Philby was very dangerous, very dangerous, very, very dangerous. So, are you willing to tell the truth? Before he could give an honest explanation, another disciple spoke first. Archmage Philby slowly stood up, her face was still pale, but the sweat on her face was not so much, and she whispered. Gretel showed me an experiment, a very strange experiment. I couldn't figure it out. Although I couldn't figure it out, I simulated attack magic based on what I felt. She lowered her eyes, concentrated slightly, and raised her hand. As soon as everyone's vision lit up, a snow-white lightning emerged out of thin air, split into two, then closed in front, and landed on a fixed point in the void. The Lord of Thunder's eyes suddenly lit up. He subconsciously took a step forward and stared at the trace of lightning, the corners of his eyes twitching slightly. The mental power opened up again, touching the space inch by inch, minute by minute. The position of the shot, the trajectory of the movement, especially the position where the lightning suddenly separated. Interesting, come on, do it again. With these words, Archmage Philby breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that even if she was scolded, she wouldn't be scolded too harshly. She raised her hand, and another bolt of lightning flew out. This time, everyone around her said in unison. Lightning no longer forks. Missed. No. It's not. Archmage Philby was sweating slightly on her forehead. Just now, she clearly felt that the teacher's mental power was evenly dispersed in the surrounding space. Soft, peaceful, and calm, like gossamer flying in the air, and like the water vapor that evaporates when a glass of water is poured into the room. You can't see it, you can't even feel it if you're not careful, but it does exist. It seems that when the lightning passed by just now, it stopped branching due to the interference of mental power. In desperation, she dodged and moved more than 100 meters away from the range enveloped by the Lord of Thunder's mental power. Raising his hand again, another bolt of lightning flew out and branched again. You won't miss this time. A head stretched out from the side. It was Diamond, the golden dragon, with bright eyes and full of interest. Archmage Philby also met this friend of the teacher. He glanced at the teacher and saw that there was no intention to stop him, so he searched his guts and tried his best to answer. It's not a mistake, it's interference, it's mental power. This little mental power shouldn't disturb you. No. It's this spell. It may be easily disturbed. Then what's the use of it? Archmage Philby was speechless. Turning around to find a helper, he saw Gretel holding his breath, almost standing on tiptoes, staring at the place where the lightning flashed, frowning. Golden Dragon Diamond waited for a while, but when she saw no response, he turned back and asked the Lord of Thunder. What's so interesting about this magic? Can't it be branched? It sometimes works but sometimes doesn't work. You do not understand. The Lord of Thunder kept his eyes straight and stared at the landing point of the second lightning bolt, repeatedly exploring and speculating. Archmage Philby acted as a humanoid discharger, firing off lightning bolts one after another. It wasn't until her face turned pale again that she was allowed to stop, sit on the edge, and gnaw on the bread with jam in her hands. The Lord of Thunder stepped into the void with his hands behind his back, walking around the space in circles. After a long time, I was finally satisfied and came back to ask. Do you know how this magic works? Shake his head. Spell model. I imitated the movement of electrons and tried it myself. I haven't summarized the spell model yet. Then what? You think you have mastered the spell, so you want to use the spell to try lightning jumping. The Lord of Thunder paused, and then started to curse. Are you stupid? You dare to take risks without understanding the principle. What is the advantage of arcane magic over traditional magic? Isn't it just that there are principles, spell models, and even mathematical formulas to summarize them? Have you thrown all these away? You don't do any research, you don't calculate, you go straight to it? Or do you do it yourself? That lightning didn't blow you to pieces, you are really lucky. Archmage Philby stood up straight, with her neck and torso almost forming a right angle, her face parallel to the ground, and listened to the teacher's scolding honestly. Greet stood side by side with her, with exactly the same posture, her scalp tensed, ready to face the storm at any time. And you? What is your senior sister here to do? As the person in charge of research, do you have a plan? Just give it to your senior sister if you don't understand any new experiment yourself. Teacher, I was wrong. By the way, what is that experiment like? Take me over and have a look. Wait, wait. Teacher. Gretel raised his head in horror. Senior Sister Philby took one look and disappeared. Fortunately, teacher, you came and fished her out. Teacher, if you take it off, no one here can take advantage of you. No, no, teacher, if you lose your temper and blow yourself up, the entire mage tower may be destroyed, and we will die with you. Teacher, can we slow down a little bit? He was so anxious that his forehead was sweating and his vest was on fire. While he was trying to dissuade him, a ray of light fell from the sky and rescued him. Your Excellency, Lord of Thunder? Has His Excellency, Lord of Thunder, arrived? It's the end of the month, the last 2 days. Don't hold on to the monthly passes in your hands. Please vote for the cat. Meow 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 meow. The cat jumps hard, backflips, rolls on the ground, and dances around. Please vote. Can I get 5,000 votes this month? As long as there are 5,000 votes, there will be 8 additional monthly votes next month. 8. Thanks for the 500 starting coins reward for stealing chickens and reading books. Thanks to @bookfriend 202210282059243666 for the 100 starting coins reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1611. When the Lord of Thunder came this time, Sky Dragon City paid great attention to it. This is different from last time. The last time he came, he was only a half-legend, and was only qualified to hang out with adult dragons, at most in their prime. After traveling on Dragon Island for several years and reaching the legend, it is worthy for the elders of the Dragon Clan to come and take a look, meet and say hello. Legend, if you are new to the legend, what is there to look at in a new light? With any legendary dragon, a human who is new to the legend can easily defeat several of them. But this time it's different. The third level of legend is completely different from entering legend for the first time. When he first entered the legend, he was just a toddler among the legend. At the third level of the legend, his power was already on par with the strongest elders in Sky Dragon City. In other words, if he goes all out and kills 7, 8, or a dozen legends, it will be no problem at all, or, if he blows a big hole in Sky Dragon City, it will take decades to repair it. Such high-level legends are not easily available even to the Dragon Clan. There are only 5 or 6 in Sky Dragon City in total. This time the Lord of Thunder comes to Dragon Island again, he deserves to be treated with extreme caution and solemn etiquette by Sky Dragon City. Like last time, the existence of Sky Dragon City was kept secret, so that the other party only vaguely knew that there was such a place. Dragon Tomb? What Dragon Tomb? If you don't even say a word, this thing doesn't exist. With this kind of attitude, you can fool a half-step legend who comes to travel and leave immediately after landing the legend, but it would be too rude to treat a third-level legend. Not to mention, his disciples are still working for the Dragon Clan on Dragon Island, and so far, his disciples have also been to Sky Dragon City and Dragon Tomb. So be careful. Must be polite. The courtesy that was not given before must be made up for this time. So Elder Batista came personally. He didn't come right away. The Lord of Thunder traveled thousands of miles just to find his disciples. He had to wait for them to finish their work. Otherwise, it's not called courtesy, it's called annoying. It's not necessarily possible to build a good relationship, but it's fine to make enemies. He was lying on the Sky Dragon City, staring at every move below through the Dragon City's monitoring array. It wasn't until he saw the person rescued safe and sound that he flew down from the Dragon City in the sky. Riding on the traction light beam of the Sky Dragon City, it was racing all the way, and it had to slow down when it was about to reach the end of the ground. It can't be too leisurely, which will appear to be disrespectful to the guests. It can't be too hurried, too hasty, which will appear that the price of Sky Dragon City has dropped. In this way, he rushed 5 or 6 miles away from the target and raised his voice to say hello. The dragon roars melodiously, coming with the wind. Your Excellency, Lord of Thunder? Has His Excellency, Lord of Thunder, arrived? Ah, teacher, that's Elder Batista. Greet looked up and quickly introduced to the teacher. This Elder Silver Dragon specializes in medical treatment and has always taken good care of us. He also recommended me to Sky Dragon City and helped us talk to the Dragon Clan and determine the research direction. He only had time to say these few words. Fortunately, once the name was announced and the words were spoken, the Lord of Thunder had a rough idea. Seeing Elder Batista flying quickly and rushing over in human form, he also greeted him with a smile. Elder, I haven't seen you for so many years. When I was traveling on Dragon Island, I was taken care of by you, but I never got to thank you. It's really nice to see you as healthy today as you were then. Oh, really, long time no see, Elder Batista also smiled. In Greet's opinion, this smile may not be as sincere as when talking to him, but if it is to be said to be bright, it is much brighter. When you left Dragon Island, you had just stepped into the legend. Now you have reached the 3rd level of legend. The progress of human beings, hey, it is really. He stroked his beard and kept shaking his head, full of emotion. The speed of human advancement is so fast. When the Lord of Thunder set foot on Dragon Island, the golden dragon Diamond was already a mature dragon and was preparing to attack the legend. When the Lord of Thunder entered legend and left Dragon Island, the golden dragon Diamond had not yet climbed to legend, and he had not even touched the threshold. After so many years, the Lord of Thunder has reached the 3rd level of legend. Golden Dragon Diamond. Beginner level of legend. Fortunately, among humans, not many people advance so quickly. Otherwise, there are 18 legends in the Magic Council. Oh, now there are 19 legends. If there are half of the 3rd level legends, everyone will die. One person and one dragon exchange greetings, recall the past, and express goodwill to each other. Elder Batista also praised Gretel's work and thanked the Lord of Thunder for teaching such good students and giving us considerable help. The Lord of Thunder also thanked Elder Batista and the entire Dragon Clan for allowing the council to build the Mage Tower on Dragon Island and giving Gretel a lot of guidance and research conveniences. After the two sides went through the cutscene, Elder Batista looked around at everyone present with a smile, pretended not to know that Archmage Philby was in danger, and smiled at the Lord of Thunder. The last time you came to Dragon Island, after you advanced to legend, you hurried back and didn't even have time to take a good walk. This time, you must stay for a few more years. If nothing else, you must go to Sky Dragon City. Let's go. Yes, definitely go for a walk. Greet and Cyrilla are already engaged. Rounding things off, the Lord of Thunder can be considered a member of the Dragon Clan. At least there is no need to worry about him doing bad things. Since there is no need to worry about him doing bad things, then, with such a strong fighting power, we must stay no matter what. The legendary 3rd level. There are only a few in the entire Sky Dragon City. Now the Dragon Clan is facing huge pressure, and having a helper is like reinforcements falling from the sky. Besides, the Dragon Clan will not fail to remunerate, and will definitely provide adequate remuneration. Besides, after entering the legend, protecting the world and making more contributions to the world will also be of great help to the advancement of the legend. Cooperation will benefit both sides, so we must seize this opportunity. The Lord of Thunder smiled slightly. Since the Dragon Clan invited Sky Dragon City, he also planned to take a look. Gretel had already told him what happened to the Dragon Clan, and if the conditions were right, it was not like he couldn't take action. But, oh, I won't go to Dragon City for the time being. I have to go back to the elf secret realm again. What? I was newly married not long ago. I came here in a hurry this time, mainly because he pointed to the disciples on his side. Philby studied magic and made herself disappear. Little Greet cried and asked me for help. Now that the person has been found, I won't stay any longer. My wife is still waiting for me in the secret place. No matter what, I have to go with her. She joined up. Then will you come back? It's hard to say. Princesses of the Elves prefer rich natural environments and vast forests here on Dragon Island. Please give me a monthly ticket. It's the last 12 hours. There are still 543 monthly tickets left to reach 5,000. Everyone, search the ticket warehouse again and give it to the cat. The cats are so anxious that they want to make themselves into sushi for everyone to eat. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1612. Elder Batista's smile froze. Well, maybe. Anyway, with Gretel's observation ability, if he wanted to see through Elder Batista's disguise, the test result seemed to be a failure. Oh, the reason it's as if is because Gretel couldn't tell whether the elder's smile really froze, or whether it continued smoothly. Ah, are you already married? I'm so sorry, I didn't know this news. Otherwise, I should have brought you and your wife a wedding gift. A congratulatory gift? You. Dragon Clan? Giving gifts to a magician who has only met a few times and is considered a stranger, and an elf princess who has never met before? Greet looked sideways. Elder, don't act too hastily on some things. Even if you are pretending, just pretend to be calm. But, is there any special reason that prompted Elder Batista to spend such a huge sum of money? Or is the situation in Sky Dragon City very bad? Can't hold it anymore? In urgent need of combat power, in urgent need of high-end combat power, and in need of spending money to buy strong people, you are even willing to give some benefits before the negotiation is completed? Greet poked at the side obediently, pretending to be a wooden stake. On the left front, the Lord of Thunder smiled and shook his head. Ah, you are so polite. The matter has been resolved. I will ask them a few words and then rush back. After all, it is always not good to leave a newlywed wife alone in a secret place. That is, Elder Batista nodded frequently. Newlyweds should not be separated for too long. By the way, I would like to ask, has your wife already advanced to legend? Not yet, but soon. The smile on the Lord of Thunder's lips became calmer again. I plan to stay with her in the elf secret realm for a while, wait for her to advance to legend, and then travel around the world with her. Anyway, we have enough time to slowly see all the scenery in this world. No, that's not it. Waiting for the master's wife to advance to legend? Gretel exchanged a vague look with senior sister Philby. The time to advance to the legend can be long or short. If you're lucky, you'll be able to break through it in a year or two, but if you're not lucky, you'll be stuck on it for the rest of your life. Of course, forget it if you are stuck for the rest of your life. After all, you are a master's wife, so you should still hope for something good. However, when the master's wife advances and slowly wanders around the world, she may wander to Dragon Island one day. 10 years from now? 20 years from now? Or maybe the teacher just came over after the battle in Sky Dragon City was over. The teacher really plans to ask for a lot of money. Ah, the love between the legend and the immortal species is really enviable. Elder Batista followed his words and even let out a long sigh. Then I will wait for you at Long Island. I hope to see you and your wife as soon as possible. Well, let's talk about it later. It depends on her progress and willingness. The Lord of Thunder nodded seriously and solemnly, but he refused to give an accurate answer no matter what. Greet and senior sister Philby looked at each other, looking forward with solemn expressions, pretending that they saw and heard nothing. Behind Gretel, Cyrero looked left and right, trying to reach out to pull Gretel's sleeves, but was stopped by Iudian beside her, and then retracted. Elder Batista tried hard to maintain a smile and tried to find a breakthrough, but for a while it seemed that he could not find it. Golden Dragon Diamond observed his words and took a step forward. "Hey, you finally came here with great difficulty. Philby has just escaped from danger, and her face is still as white as this." And little Greed rushed over in a hurry. "The people in the Mage Tower still don't know why they are nervous. Let's go to the Mage Tower to rest and recover first, and then we can chat slowly, okay? This reason is high-sounding and impeccable." The Lord of Thunder smiled slightly, looked at Gretel, and nodded slightly. Greed jumped up quickly and led the way. "This way. Go this way." The group of people returned to the Mage Tower. As expected, the tower was crowded with people. Not only the magicians, but also the nearby nature priests came over to show respect and watch. Greed showed them Senior Sister Philby, expressed everything is normal, let's go, and then asked the teacher and others to take a break in the guest room. As soon as the door closed here, over there, Golden Dragon Diamond and Elder Batista knocked on the Thunder Lord's door. "Kristen, you really have to help us this time without anyone watching." Diamond was able to get straight to the point and talk about his difficulties. Sky Dragon City has encountered a huge trouble, a trouble that only happens once in thousands of years. There is a small alien world that is about to press on the world barrier. All compatriots who can go into battle are preparing to fight. Our combat power not enough. As he talked, he wrote and drew, giving an overview of the situation. "Look, you asked me to watch the volcano erupt. I didn't hesitate and immediately ran thousands of miles over, didn't I? We are in trouble, you have to help me anyway. I'm not letting you work in vain. It's easy to ask for any reward, I can't lose you. That is, you have to help with this no matter what." The Lord of Thunder smiled slightly. "That's right. If you have a problem and ask for help, just say so. The conditions are laid out, the rewards are offered, if you can agree, then agree, if you can't agree, then continue to bargain. Why bother with the previous rhetoric of please come and have fun or please come and visit with your wife? Well, in that case, we have to change our plans." He leaned back, put his hands leisurely in front of him, and crossed his fingers. "Norel may not be happy, no matter what, the progress of her advancement is still the top priority. Of course it is so difficult to break through the legendary pass. Everything must make way for it." Golden Dragon Diamond nodded in understanding. "But old friend, if she can't break through in a while, I really suggest you take her to Dragon Island. The environment difference between the Elf Secret Realm and Elf Island is too small, making it difficult to provide her with enough insights. Dragon Island is different. Come here, you can wander around as you like. There is also Sky Dragon City. I promise, this place is definitely impactful." The smile on the Lord of Thunder's lips grew slightly wider. "It depends on the situation. I still need to seek her opinion. However, even if I come, I can't stay here for too long. There are always too few legends in the Parliament. Facing the glorious Holy See, we are always under great pressure. I have been outside for several years, and I want to go back and take over." "Well, this." The two legendary dragons looked at each other. Golden Dragon Diamond shut up, Elder Batista said leisurely. "We can't get many of the legendary third level here. However, if you can help us, we can also send a few giant dragons to Nevis to stay there. I think the Glory Holy See should be able to see them." "Asking for a monthly ticket." "Asking for the last monthly ticket. There are still 224 votes left before the 5,000 votes are cast. If you are not satisfied in the last 4 hours, you will lose 2 months of votes next month and we will update it. Everyone, Try harder and search the ticket warehouse. The final 224 votes. There is also a guaranteed monthly ticket for next month, so remember to leave it for the cat. Meow. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1613. The combat power of one legendary level 3 is at least equivalent to, I don't count too much, 5 legendary level 2s, right? Dragon Island really can't draw so many legends. If it could, it wouldn't be necessary to ask for help from the outside. Golden Dragon Diamond put on a grimace. Open your eyes wide, let your friends see your sincere eyes, your shadow will be reflected in them, right? It only reflects your shadow, right? Isn't that sincere enough? I am so sincere, you must believe me. Elder Batista sat next to him, his face solemn and silent. As a third-level legend, when he spoke, there was no room for change on either side. Therefore, let the juniors talk first. Diamond and the Lord of Thunder have been friends for many years. Whether they are joking or making fun of each other, it will not hurt their friendship. However, if I stay on Dragon Island, it means that Nevis loses a legendary third-level combat capability. The Lord of Thunder also looked dignified and nervous. You don't know how hard the glorious Holy See is pushing us. Just a few years ago, more than 10 years ago, he led a heavy army to intervene in the throne change of the Kingdom of Kent. Our legend almost pushed all the way forward before knocking them back. But that was more than 10 years ago. Diamond shook his head in disbelief. There is a huge difference between more than 10 years ago and now. Among other things, how many legends have been added to your council now? How many have been reduced by the glorious Holy See? It's not so easy to add legends. In so many years, only one has been added, the Lord of Thunderside. Of course, the glorious Holy See still lost a few legends, but if they lose any more, their number of legends will be more than 1.5 times that of ours. We are still under great pressure. The pressure on the glorious Holy See may not be less. You were prepared for the catastrophe when the volcano erupted a few years ago, but they were not prepared under their rule. Just dealing with that disaster would have severely damaged your vitality, right? Golden Dragon Diamond argued hard, and vaguely mentioned the incident in the year without summer. 10,000 miles, one way, 10,000 miles, round trip, 20,000 miles. Please ask me to go there. Have I negotiated terms with you? I didn't ask you to negotiate terms at first, but this time I asked you, so why don't you give me some face? Alas, they have a big business after all. The Lord of Thunder sighed, and his tone finally softened. In any case, if you let me come to the Sky Dragon City to garrison, Nevis will lose a top combat power. This combat power, no matter what, must be made up for. If you can make up for it, we won't come to you for help. The Golden Dragon Diamond lamented, but before he could continue to entangle, the Lord of Thunder already said leisurely. Look, over at Elf Island, they asked me to help with a research project, so they sent 2 elf legends to take my place. Now that the research on the project is over, and the eldest prince has been cured, the 2 legends are still there. Moreover, he had spent a lot of time participating in the project, but it was only more than a year ago. The 2 legendary elves probably would not be able to return in 10 or 8 years. The meaning of the Lord of Thunder is very clear. The quality is not enough to fill in the quantity, and the quantity is not enough to replace it in time. No matter what, we must take care of one end and not let the Magic Council suffer. But there's nothing wrong with the elves. No need to fight over there. The crack that stuck to the edge of the elves for thousands of years, and the small world inside the crack, was basically wiped out. They have enough people to draw, not to mention 2 legends. There is no problem in drawing 2 more. And they also have a lot of ancient trees, a lot of legendary ancient trees. The attack may not have any spare power, but the defense is really good. What about the Dragon Clan? A legendary dragon is a legendary dragon. Contracts with ancient trees or other accompanying legends do not exist at all. If it weren't for the huge size of the dragon, one giant dragon could be as powerful as several elven legends. I'm afraid the overall strength of the Dragon Clan would be lower than that of the Elves. Well, if it were normal times, I would have agreed to it, but this time, you see, we really don't have enough manpower. So. Diamond thought over and over again and hesitated. We send 2 legendary dragons, plus 2 adult dragons over there? The legendary dragon cooperates with you in your research, or maintains the mysterious lock of the Tower of Babel. 2 adult dragons, children can't control their temper, it doesn't matter if they come out occasionally. This is a clear expression of alliance. The appearance of the Dragon Clan in Nevis and a half-hidden expression of their permanent presence means that the Dragon Clan and the Magic Council have become allies. If the Glory Holy See doesn't come to attack, it will change. If it comes, we have to weigh whether it can withstand the Dragon Clan and the magicians. It doesn't take much. Half of the legendary dragons from the Dragon Clan, considering the combat effectiveness of the Dragon Clan, maybe a quarter of the legendary dragons are enough. The legendary combat power exceeds that of the Glory Holy See. They come here just to sleep on their stomachs and help transfer some power when foreign enemies invade. I really want to go to the battlefield. The Lord of Thunder was still not satisfied. Elder Batista then slowly interjected. Don't worry, don't worry. First of all, we will explain it well. When we encounter the enemy, they will not be lazy. Secondly, let them bring a few legendary weapons and spell scrolls. When it comes time to take action, the number of people is not enough, but the combat power is still enough. The Lord of Thunder groaned and remained silent. Elder Batista said calmly. The past candidates, legendary weapons and spell scrolls have been reviewed for you in advance. This condition is barely acceptable. The Lord of Thunder nodded slightly. I need to communicate with Nevis first. Of course, Elder Batista couldn't help but smile when he saw that his words were loose. This is a big matter, and it really requires the legends to communicate in advance and reach a consensus. Besides, where the 2 legendary dragons and the 2 adult dragons will live after arriving in Nevis and how they will be treated need to be arranged in advance. You cannot just send them away just by saying they will be sent. Then, if you ask me to take action, the reward must be calculated, right? This, of course. Elder Batista and Golden Dragon Diamond looked at each other quickly. Just calculated according to the reward of the legendary 3rd-level dragon for fighting, okay. Considering that you are a human race, we will double the calculation. Double it? The dragons fight for their own clan, but I don't. The Lord of Thunder leaned back slightly. Hey, I've known for a long time, talking about remuneration will definitely be another hard battle. There is definitely a reward, but this thing is what the Dragon Clan is least willing to mention. Taking out a gold coin is like picking off their scales, digging out their flesh, and drawing their blood. When calculating the reward, at least this part should be added, right? But there is a difference in the fighting power between dragons and humans. Oh? What do you mean? You want me to fight with a legendary 3rd-level dragon first to measure the difference in combat power? Ask for a guaranteed monthly pass. Please give me a guaranteed monthly ticket, meow 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 meow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1614. Chapter 1609. Lord of Thunder, I just have a look, no. Asking for a guaranteed monthly ticket. Monthly ticket adds 1 update. Elder Batista and the Golden Dragon Diamond bargained with the Lord of Thunder until they were exhausted mentally and physically. Who said that legendary mages are all indifferent and only think about learning? Who says legendary mages aren't good at bargaining? This Lord of Thunder has to cut the price, he is a cruel man. Probably none of the most successful big businessmen in the Nevis market are as good at negotiating as he is. We need to send giant dragons to guard the area. There are 2 legendary dragons who work hard, and 2 young dragons who are lively and have a strong sense of presence. Bring the magic equipment and scrolls at the bottom of the box. By the way, these equipment and scrolls will probably end up with the Magic Council. You need to be paid for daily patrols, and you need to be paid more for fighting. Even if you don't do anything and stay in Sky Dragon City every day, you still need to be treated well. You must at least have a territory, right? A temporary territory is also a territory. It doesn't have to be big. The main thing is to let Norrell get close to nature and appreciate the changes of the 4 seasons. She came to Dragon Island with me, and I can't ignore her. Yes, you have a point. But is the territory you want too big? The territory you asked for has already caught up with the legendary dragon. It should also be near your disciple's mage tower, preferably next to it. Where can I move it for you? By the way, there must be energy in the territory, which can be used to build a mage tower. Yes, little Gretel has a mage tower, but as a teacher, I don't necessarily want to steal my disciple's mage tower, right? The Lord of Thunder talks eloquently. Besides, a mage tower that allows legendary mages to live, study, meditate, and recover, and a mage tower used by magicians below legendary are completely different things. We will prepare a residence for you and your wife in Sky Dragon City. Elder Batista also smiled apologetically. Sky Dragon City is an aggregation of powerful energy. In Dragon City, each legendary dragon has a dragon nest suitable for its own energy properties. You and your wife will also have a similar residence. If the energy supply is insufficient, question. After all, Sky Dragon City is not a place that can be lived for a long time. It needs to be repaired on the ground. The Lord of Thunder shook his head calmly. Especially Norrell, she can't be away from nature for too long. In fact, it's because you don't like the energy flow around you, it's completely under the supervision of Sky Dragon City. Elder Batista complained silently. But there is nothing he can do about it. If it were him, he wouldn't like the nature of his energy and the total amount of energy absorbed to be known to others. For a strong person, this is equivalent to being naked and exposed to the surveillance of outsiders, which is more embarrassing than actually running around on the street. The key is that he is not a dragon, so he must be cautious. Your trump card, you can't reveal it to others easily. Alas, I also know that you are in trouble. The Lord of Thunder was still sighing leisurely. While sighing, he gently stirred the coffee in the cup with a small silver spoon, creating ripples. Don't be in a hurry, take your time. I accompanied Norrell all the way here. I can't rush like this time. I have to take my time and walk around with her. I guess I won't be able to catch up until this place is straightened out. Come. If things aren't straightened out here, you won't come over even if you can, right? Elder Batista almost rolled his eyes at him. However, thinking about the battles in Sky Dragon City, thinking about the compatriots who shed blood in the sky, thinking about him being so humble, offering various treasures, and begging the Time Dragon to help predict the life and death of his compatriots. Well, although asking for money from the Dragon Clan is more painful than peeling and removing the scales, peeling and removing the scales is better than losing your life, right? If there is no treasure, you can still go mining, panning for magma, fishing in the sea, searching in the stars, making money from humans, or even robbing. Without life, there is nothing. Not only are they gone, but the compatriots who fell into the starry sky like this will probably not even be able to return to the Dragon Tomb. Elder Batista said goodbye bitterly, then rushed to Sky Dragon City to discuss bitterly with his fellow tribesmen. Remuneration must be given, and it cannot be given too low. The Lord of Thunder opened his mouth and said, "A few years ago, my disciples went to the Eagle Kingdom to help them fight against the threat of the glorious Holy Sea. The reward they received was for each level 15 magician, a golden statue as big as a human, and the level increased. The remuneration will increase proportionally." Hello. Hey. According to this standard, how many golden statues are needed to reach the third level of legend? Do you want a golden statue as big as a legendary dragon? There is not so much gold in Sky Dragon City. Of course, Sky Dragon City shouldn't have so much gold. But I think this can be set as a standard, and we can use it to pay for equivalent magic materials and magic equipment at a discount. It's over, Sky Dragon City is going to bleed. Let's just say, open the dragon tomb. Can you dig it yourself? How much does it cost to dig? Elder Batista, carrying a heavy responsibility, quickly rushed to Sky Dragon City. On the ground, it was Gretel's turn to tremble and poke in front of the Lord of Thunder. Teacher? Just don't watch that experiment, right? I'm really afraid. Why don't you watch? Facing the nervous young disciple, the Lord of Thunder smiled gently. Philby didn't get into trouble just by looking at it. She tried the first experiment and nothing happened. Don't be so nervous. The teacher will be careful. She will never try it on her own before she understands its principle and spell structure. But teacher, I'm afraid that if you see it, something will happen if you think about it. Gretel quietly took a step to the side. Although it was useless, he still made an action of blocking the door with his body to try to prevent the teacher from entering the laboratory. What if you see it and feel it completely conflicts with your own understanding, and then it goes bang? He held his head with both hands, pressed his palms tightly against his temples, and then stretched his arms outward. What if it explodes? Well, that's a problem. The Lord of Thunder's smile grew deeper and deeper. Seeing the young disciple's hairy expression, he couldn't help but want to tease him. If I explode, the entire mage tower probably won't survive. In this way, let's find a place farther away, 20 or 30 kilometers away from the mage tower. Set up your set of instruments and try again. It should be okay. Something's up. Teacher. The most important thing is that nothing happens to you. Greet was almost hoarse. Why did he have to be mean? Why did he do this experiment? Why did he leave the experiment to his senior sister to see if he couldn't figure it out on his own? If nothing happened to the senior sister, it was a fluke, because the teacher was behind to take care of everything. If something happened to the teacher, no one would be able to take care of it. And this time it's not like last time. The last time he showed it to his senior sister, he had asked the time dragon in advance to make sure that nothing would happen to his senior sister, even though it was later proven that this insurance was useless. This time, if the teacher comes to see it, even if he asks the time dragon, he probably won't get the answer. Okay, it's okay. The Lord of Thunder smiled and sighed, stood up and patted Gretel on the shoulder. After listening to your and Philby's descriptions, I have already constructed many experimental plans in my mind and made many speculations and simulations. If something were to happen, it would have happened long ago. In order to prevent me from making random plans, you should take me to see it. Let's take a look. After all, Gretel was still crying, turning back and persuading step by step, and was carried to the laboratory by the Lord of Thunder. Then, without running the experimental equipment, he called up the previous experimental records and respectfully asked the Lord of Thunder to read them. Well, it's indeed interesting, quite interesting. One picture after another, one light spot after another. From sparse to dense, from a solitary bright spot on the fluorescent screen, to a fuzzy strip, and then to a relatively clear strip. The Lord of Thunder carefully flipped through the records, his breathing quickened slightly, and there seemed to be lightning flashing in his eyes. Greet squatted beside him, not daring to breathe. Teacher, You promised me. Not simulated. Don't think. Let alone do it yourself. Promise me nothing will happen to you. From sitting at nightfall until the morning sun jumped above the horizon, and then until the sun crossed the zenith, the Lord of Thunder finally read all the experimental records, and, thankfully, they didn't explode. He turned around and smiled at Greed. Are you relieved? Let's dismantle the instrument. Really, do we really want to dismantle it? Gretel couldn't defeat the teacher in the end. Dismantle the instruments, transport them to the lonely peak where senior sister Philby was found, rub a laboratory with bare hands, and then assemble the instruments. Debugging, connecting energy, connecting tower spirit. Teacher, promise me, you really just want to take a look, don't think too much. Okay. And don't compare it with the conclusions you have studied and deduced before. New. Don't run the meditation world anymore, try to be a substitute. Don't be bothered, hurry up. The Lord of Thunder simply flicked his finger, and a row of ultra-miniature magic missiles lined up to hit his forehead, causing a small bag to hit his left forehead on the spot. Greed cast his uneasy eyes on senior sister Philby again. This time, he got another string of magic missiles and a small bump on the right forehead. Ouch, it hurts. Gretel dared to be angry but did not dare to speak, so he slapped himself with a healing spell on his forehead, and then another healing spell. The senior sister's spell control is still not as good as the teacher's, and the blow is much more painful than the teacher's. The swelling on the right is also one level higher than the one on the left. If you want to avoid being beaten, you can only turn on the experimental equipment quickly. Greed sighed, checked the experimental equipment one last time, and turned the switch cruelly. No response. To be precise, there was no response for a while. The results of this experiment will not come out in a short time. It needs to wait patiently, waiting for one electron to be fired through the electron gun, fly through the slit, hit the light screen, and leave a small bright spot. Then, the traces left by thousands, tens of thousands, or tens of millions of bright spots on a light screen will be gathered into patterns. 2 light strips, or n light strips of overlapping light and dark. That's what they're waiting for. And previous experiments have proven that if you are impatient and use your mental power to observe the electrons emitted one by one, the experimental results will be disturbed. Gretel waited in fear all afternoon, another night, and another day. Thank God, there is nothing unusual about the teacher, there is no fluctuation in the power around him, there is no abnormality in mental power, and there is no strange electric or magnetic turbulence. Maybe, the teacher will be fine this time, right? 2 full days passed, 2 rounds of experiments were repeated, and the 2 experimental results were laid out in front of him. The Lord of Thunder has an image on his left and an image on his right, looking back and forth over and over again, with no waves on his face, no joy or anger. Archmage Philby held her breath and Gretel was worried. Elder Batista, who came from Sky Dragon City and planned to have a good talk with the Lord of Thunder again, was hovering in the air far away and did not dare to come over. As a legend, his senses are much sharper than those 2 little guys. Just by looking at it from a distance, he felt that there was a strange pressure that was growing and accumulating. But don't let anything happen. It doesn't matter if something happens to others, it doesn't matter even if something happens to the Lord of Thunder, but don't implicate little Gretel. We, the Dragon Clan, are still counting on him to continue to advance research so that the Dragon Clan can have more newborns. Even myself, if possible, would like to have a few more descendants. There are so few children in the Dragon Clan now, so everyone has to work hard to have more children. He floated a mile away, transformed into a human form, and tried his best to gesture, wave, and point to his feet to signal Gretel to come over. Gretel didn't even look at him, staring nervously at the Lord of Thunder. Teacher, I agreed to just take a look. The nervous and worried eyes of the students fell on them. The Lord of Thunder could feel them, but he no longer had the extra attention to pay attention to them. At this moment, there was only one thought echoing repeatedly in his mind. I see. I see. How the lightning summoned by Philby split into two. How did Philby enter that strange state while teleporting with the help of lightning? And Virakaka, the sun god, changes between reality and reality. What are those two states like? So this is It turns out that such a phenomenon does exist in nature. The so-called demigods have only unconsciously mastered or repeated such phenomena. So, if I could. It is definitely impossible to enter the state yourself. It requires more observations, more experiments, and more research, but, what about studying the situation? He suddenly dodged, stepped out of the lonely peak, and stood far away on the sea. Archmage Philby followed the move subconsciously. She dodged and stayed in place. She dodged again and still stayed in place. Oops. The teacher put down the dimensional lock and stopped us all. Teacher, what do you want to do? Greet's reaction speed is much slower than that of senior sister. He took a step in the direction of the teacher, then took another step, then came back to his senses and activated the flying technique. As soon as his feet left the ground, his body suddenly sank. Elder Batista had already rushed over, grabbing them one by one, pulling them down to the ground and tucking them behind him. Immediately afterwards, thunder and lightning crashed. Gretel was about to cry but had no tears left. Teacher, what if you just wanted to take a look and not get started? Children's Day. Cat wishes all babies from 1 month old to 1,200 months old a happy Children's Day. By the way, reach out and ask for a ticket, a guaranteed monthly ticket meow. 1 month old kitten is rolling around asking for votes. Thanks to Ed for the 100 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1615. Lightning flashes, filling the heaven and earth. Gretel was so dazzled that he couldn't even open his eyes. While applying the healing technique hard on his face, he silently muttered corneal damage, macular burn, retinal damage while trying to open his eyes and look in the direction of the Lord of Thunder. Teacher, be sure nothing happens. Don't let anything happen. You agreed to just watch and not take action. If you have already taken action, then be sure to control the scale. At least, nothing will happen to you. Even if Dragon Island is blown up. Fortunately, the Lord of Thunder is quite rare. Greet blinked once, twice, and a third time. After trying to squeeze the tears out of his eyes, he opened his eyes and saw the thunder in the sky disappear. Then, as soon as his eyes flashed, the Lord of Thunder teleported back. Yoon Danfan stood in front of him gently and patted him on the shoulder. Not bad. This experiment is quite interesting. Gretel. There were bright spots in his eyes, and everything seemed to be swaying. Even with a huge teacher standing in front of him, he could only see a single figure. I could only prick up my ears and listen to the exchange between senior sister Philby and the teacher. Teacher, it's great that you're okay. The senior sister's voice was also a little weak, and she seemed to be quite frightened. On the other hand, the teacher's voice was as casual as ever. What can happen to me? You can study this magic. How can something go wrong if I imitate it? You guys are actually taking care of the teacher. Teacher, then this experiment. I have dismantled the instrument. The Lord of Thunder's voice was a little careless, but it was unquestionable. Don't even think about trying it these days, especially teleportation and other spells. No, it's best not to try anything at all. Observation, calculation, and hypothesis are all fine, but don't try it. Yes. Don't think it's just talk. According to my estimation, there is no clear theory or accurate spell model. To be able to safely teleport purely by relying on talent and strength, you have to be a demigod. Even your teacher may not be able to do it. Ah! Archmage Philby trembled slightly, her vest was densely covered with sweat, and she suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Gretel also shivered, shook his head hard, and looked at the teacher. Then teacher, you are not a demigod, so don't try it yourself, just trick others. Just cheat that sun god Virakaka. Okay, just study hard and don't touch anything beyond your ability. The Lord of Thunder was still talking to his disciples very gently and patiently. Although this kind of gentleness and patience did not stop him from putting the instrument invented by Gretel into his own space equipment with a wave of his hand. I've gone back. Your master wife is still waiting for me in the elf secret realm. If you need to communicate with me about something, even though I'm not here, I can still provide advice. Is teacher. Greet and senior sister Philby answered in unison. The Lord of Thunder smiled and waved to them. Okay, I'm leaving dash. The energy around him fluctuated slightly, and it was obvious that preparations for a long-distance space transmission had begun. Elder Batista was anxious and quickly took a step forward, pulling the two young men behind him. Hey, wait. We haven't finished talking yet. Settle things quickly. Otherwise, I will not return your two apprentices. The Lord of Thunder smiled. Gretel didn't know what the two sides talked about. All in all, when we contacted him for the second time, the Lord of Thunder was already in the kingdom of the sun and flying towards the secret realm of the elves. When you go with your wife, you have to come slowly and don't rush. It will take 2 months at the earliest. If your wife has any insights, it may take longer. During this time, you should study hard and don't cause trouble. You are the one who causes the most trouble. You ran away, and the dragon clan is squeaking over there, trying to take over the territory for you. There is movement here, movement there must be mountains, rivers, forests, lakes, and the sea. To carve out a piece of land, you also have to gather the intelligent races on the territory. When you arrive and plan to build a house, you find that your most promising location is occupied by a group of smelly ogres, right? Sky Dragon City also needs to clear up a place. You can't just refuse to give it to someone if they say they don't want it. A legendary third-level player always needs a recovery process after taking action with all his strength. If this process is put on the ground, it means that Sky Dragon City will lose a strong support during the round trip. Moreover, it is easy to live in. All walls, roofs, windows, railings, and even large pieces of furniture can be condensed with energy. If you are not satisfied, you can change it on the spot. However, the decoration inside the residence is not so easy. The residence of the legendary mage and the elf princess must be something decent. How many trees should I plant? Let's lay a piece of turf. There must be some precious furnishings in the room. It has to be the kind where people can just pack their bags and move in. Also, the reward for the Lord of Thunder must be prepared in advance. When people come, they will see the first batch of rewards. Otherwise, what should I do if they just refuse to take action? What should I do if I can't work hard? The excuses are all ready. My wife has not entered the legend yet, so we cannot let her worry during this period. What should I do if I just stand aside and watch? By the way, there is also the reward for Time Dragon Sains. This payment is once a month and must not be delayed. To pay, you have to grind your teeth with the legendary dragons and dig out things from their treasure house. 2 giant dragons are also to be sent to Nevis. The legendary dragon will not go for the time being, and the reason used is the war is tense, and I will wait until you and your wife arrive at Sky Dragon City before sending the legendary dragon there. However, 2 adult dragons to add to their heads must be dispatched immediately. Who to send? Those who are suitable don't want to go, but those who are not suitable are rushing to go. You still have to coordinate. Batista Elder Alexander. After treatment and patrolling, All my energy was spent on quarreling with the legendary dragons. He hasn't slept in the mist for 10 days. Without the nourishment of clouds and mist, and without enough sleep, the scales on his body would no longer shine. Why did this job fall into his hands again? It feels like ever since the little girl from the Liuguang Shining family came to Long Island with her fiancé, all kinds of chores have fallen into his hands. Elder Batista was so worried that the scales on his head turned dim. When he scratched his head, he felt as if a few of them were about to fall off. On the other side, the Lord of Thunder is having a good time. The eldest prince advanced to legend very smoothly. When he returned, he had already left seclusion. The two brothers and sisters held hands with smiles and came to greet him. The Lord of Thunder smiled and said, "Are you relieved now? What are you worried about?" Princess Norrell raised a smile and came over affectionately, holding her brother's arm with one hand and her husband with the other. She assisted the queen and managed Elf Island for many years, developing a calm but majestic temperament. It was only after my brother recovered from his illness and got married that he became lively again. At this moment, he raised his chin, his face full of matter-of-factness. "Brother, isn't it right to advance to legend? That's how it should be. The difficult thing about ascending to the legend is the perception and the realm. His Highness the Great Prince's mental power has already reached the legendary level, but his physical body can never keep up. After recovering from the illness, it took several years to recuperate, exercise, and hone his body from a weak body to the level of a high-level warrior. This time, joining the legend came naturally without any obstacles. So Princess Norrell was only a little worried. Basically, she could eat, sleep, and was in the mood to wander around in the elf secret realm and experience the vast rainforest that was different from Evermeet Island. When the Lord of Thunder came back, she was not thin at all, not haggard, and her face was radiant. She leaned next to her brother and watched her husband, who had been to Dragon Island, take out things the same way. "This is a wedding gift from Sky Dragon City, this is from the legendary Silver Dragon Batista, this is from the Red Dragon Angzi, this is from the Emerald Dragon Tana. Why send so many?" Even the eldest prince was shocked. "The Dragon Clan, that's the Dragon Clan. Such a naughty dragon. Asking them to bring out a copper coin is like peeling off their scales. When you give gifts to others, you must ask for something. Let the Dragon Clan give so many treasures. What did you promise them? They are in danger. There is an invasion from a foreign enemy. Please ask me to help them and block it together." "Well, I have already agreed. These," pointing to the various gifts on the table. "It can't be regarded as a deposit, it can only be regarded as an expression of sincerity." "Are you going to help them fight?" Princess Norrell sat upright. "That's the Dragon Clan. In terms of race, the Dragon Clan has the strongest combat power. Why do they lack legends? Why is the third level of legend missing? Okay, the more legendary third level ones are the better, but if the Dragon Clan wants to call in foreign aid for its enemies, is it useful to have a third level legendary one to top them up? You just married my sister," the eldest prince also frowned and said. "Going to fight for others now? Before taking risks, think of Norrell first." As he spoke, he clasped his sister's palm tightly, pulled it back, and made a gesture of "If you dare to take risks, my sister, I will take it off. My girl hasn't reached legend yet. I've only been married to you for a few years, and I don't even have children. Are you about to go to the battlefield and fight to the death for an unrelated dragon clan? Don't worry, I've checked, it's nothing serious." The Lord of Thunder had to comfort his wife and brother-in-law. "Before I agreed, I went to the outer world with them to have a look. I evaluated the scale, intensity, and power of the Dragon Clan in that small world. To put it simply, if I don't take action, the Dragon Clan can win by itself, but the losses will be relatively high. Big. The least optimistic estimate is that 1/3 to 1/2 of the Dragon Clan may be lost, and it will be slowly replenished over the long years to come. Joining a top combat force at this time will be much better for the Dragon Clan, and for the Magic Council. Wouldn't it be nice to have one more powerful ally in Parliament? If you think you can handle it, then go ahead. After looking at each other, the eldest prince sighed helplessly. As for Norrell, stay with me for a while first and then go back when the situation is stable.